That's good, but the worst DreamWorks animation SKG they ever created was Shark Tale. It tells the story of Oscar, an underachieving fish who falsely claims to have killed the son of a shark mob boss, to advance his community standing. Oscar teams up with the mobster's younger son to keep up the facade. Now don't get me wrong, it really is the worst DreamWorks film I've ever watched. The film received mixed reviews from film critics, and advocacy groups criticized the film for its use of Italian-American stereotypes. This shows me how bad this movie was.
Well, Shark the Third was the only Shark film that I don't like. In the film, Prince Charming is plotting to overthrow Shark and Fiona, who have inherited the throne following King Harold's death. Shark has no interest in ruling the kingdom and attempts to convince Fiona's underachieving, 16-year-old cousin Hardy to reign instead. I heard that Shark the Third has received mixed reviews from critics but was a commercial success, and do you know what's really bad? The scene where King Harold faked his own death 2 times in a row, and whoever make this scene, this is bad idea for DreamWorks to do that. What is the meaning of this? Although, I feel bad for King Harold, since his death has been tragedy.
Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas are not treasures gold, and it was an box office bomb. It covers the story of Sinbad, voiced by Pitt, a pirate who travels the sea with his dog and his loyal crew, alongside Marina, voiced by Zeta-Jones, the fiancée of his childhood friend Prince Proteus, voiced by Fiennes, to recover the stolen Book of Peace from Eris, voiced by Pfeiffer, to save Proteus from approving Sinbad's death sentence. The film blends elements from 1001 Nights and classical mythology. I only like the animation, action sequences, and voice performances, but not the storyline and polarizing CGI. Keeping secrets, are ye?
Hey, someone has just stole the tagline from The Lighthouse.
Now hold on a second, the worst film of 2021 is starting to grind my gears. The plot follows the now adult Templeton brothers who are brought back together after Tim's daughter Tina requests their help for Baby Corp to stop a professor from erasing childhoods worldwide. The film was not as successful as its predecessor, grossing over $146 million worldwide with an $82 million budget, and received generally mixed reviews from critics. And now it is a painless diversion for me to watch, and this theatrical poster is burning my eyes painfully. Why, you ungrateful sequel?
Now the first DreamWorks box office flop of 2000 came, and let me tell you. The film follows 2 con artists who, after winning the map to El Dorado in Spain, wash ashore in the New World, where they use the map to lead them to the city of El Dorado, where its inhabitants mistake them for gods. The mixed reviews didn't came for the gold, the biggest box office flop did not stake for the adventure.
Now Spirit Untamed didn't go well with the critics, as well as the box office. The film follows a young girl named Fortuna Lucky Prescott who moves to the small rural community of Miradero, where she meets the titular wild Cougar Mustang. As the son of Spirit and Rain from Spirit, stallion of the Cimarron, she names the horse Spirit after his father, and Lucky immediately begins to bond with him. And Jake Gyllenhaal plays James Prescott, in which DreamWorks will probably regret making this movie, or even Taylor Swift was used in the trailer song.
Did someone else say Taylor Swift?
Oh god.
Oh, so the movie is what we're talking about. Well, this is not a good film alongside with Shark the Third. The film centers on Barry Benson, Seinfeld, a honeybee who tries to sue the human race for exploiting bees after learning from his new florist friend Vanessa Bloom, Zellweger, that humans sell and consume honey. I only like his humor and voice cast, but not the plot. The movie was a box office success. Damn, I didn't know bees were embedded honey.
Oh no. Me and Karos don't like that movie. The story follows the shared adventures of a friendly alien who is shunned by the rest of his kind, and a teenage girl searching for her mother after they are separated during an invasion of Earth. Aliens are about to invade it starting now.
Paul Delbach, we're got to get you out of here.
Oh my god. Not again. The first installment in the Boss Baby franchise, the plot follows a boy helping his baby brother who is a secret agent in the war for adults' love between babies and puppies. I only like its animation and voice performances but not its plot and humor. Especially when I feel suffered from this humor. I am so outraged.
Well, Madagascar was like me to move it. It centers around a group of animals from the Central Park Zoo who find themselves stranded on the island of Madagascar. Madagascar received mixed reviews from critics but was a success at the box office, becoming the 6th highest grossing film of 2005. Party time, boys.
I like them moving, moving. I like them moving, moving. I like them moving, moving. We like to move it. I like them moving, moving. She like them moving, moving. We like them moving, moving. We like to keep on.
Was it I Like to Move It segment?
It was, obviously.
So now Sherrick Forever After was fine in my thoughts, but not my favorite. The plot follows Sherrick, who struggles with the responsibilities and stress of being a domesticated family man, learning for the days he was once feared and lived in solitude. He is tricked by Rumpelstiltskin into signing a contract that leads to disastrous consequences. It's alright for me.
I would go back to Africa in this Madagascar too. In the film, the main characters, a party of animals from the Central Park Zoo whose adventures have taken them to Madagascar, find themselves in Africa, where they meet others of their species and where Alex the lion reunites with his parents. Bernie Mac will be missed.
Turbo really is fast, and it was an okay film despite declaring as a box office bomb. Set in Los Angeles, the film follows an ordinary garden snail Theo Turbo Reynolds, who pursues his dream of winning the Indy 500 after a freak accident gives him super speed. I always like the animation, humor, and voice acting, but not its lack of originality. Nicholas Sangerhop will be missed as well.
You know, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron was an alright film, and it was way better than Spirit Untamed. The film follows Spirit, a Kiger Mustang stallion, voiced by Matt Damon through inner dialogue, who was captured during the American Indian Wars by the United States Cavalry. He is freed by a Native American man named Little Creek who attempts to lead him back into the Lakota village.
I Bet Trolls World Tour is a good sequel, and same as Trolls from 2016. The film follows Poppy and Branch as they discover several more troll tribes that represent music genres other than their own. Troubles arise when the Queen of the Rock tribe plans to overthrow the foreign music genres to unite the trolls under rock music. Even though it was released in the United States in a limited number of theaters on April 10, 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and was simultaneously released on video on demand, I still love it.
I always play Grug from the Croods, and this is good ones. The film is set in a fictional prehistoric Pliocene era known as the Cretaceous, a prehistoric period which contains fictional creatures, when Grug, patriarch of the Croods, is threatened by the arrival of a genius named Guy, who comes up with revolutionary new inventions as they trek through a dangerous but exotic land in search of a new home. As part of the distribution deal, this was the first Dreamworks animation film to be distributed by 20th Century Fox, since the end of their distribution deal with Paramount Pictures in 2012.
Obviously, Megamind seems alright in my thoughts. It tells the story of Megamind, a highly intelligent alien supervillain. After defeating his longtime nemesis Metro Man, Megamind creates a new hero to fight, but must act to save the city when his creation becomes an even worse villain than he was.
Okie dokie, Penguins of Madagascar that will blow their cover. It is a spin-off of the Madagascar franchise and takes place directly after the events of Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, 2012, following the Penguins, Skipper, Kowalski, Rico and Private, as they join forces with the Northwind Intelligence Agency to stop the Octopus Dave, who seeks revenge on all penguins across the world for being upstaged by capturing them. Too bad the film underperformed by Dreamworks standards, and resulted in a write-down $57.1 million for the studio, as Pacific Day 2 Images goes bye-bye to the animation.
Ever since Dreamworks released this 2009 film called Monsters vs. Aliens, the film turned out to be alright. Featuring the voices of Reese Witherspoon, Seth Rogen, Hugh Laurie, Will Arnett, Kiefer Sutherland, Rainn Wilson, Paul Rudd, and Stephen Colbert, the film involves a group of misfit monsters hired by the United States Armed Forces to stop the invasion of an extraterrestrial villain and save the world in exchange for freedom.
Flushed Away looks good, that's 73% accurate. In the film, a pampered pet rat named Roddy St. James Jackman is flushed down the toilet in his Kensington apartment by a sewer rat named Sid Ritchie and befriends a scavenger named Rita Malone Winslet in order to get back home while evading a sinister toad, McKellum, and his hench rats, Nighty and Circus. Too Bad flushed away underperformed at the box office, prompting Dreamworks to end their partnership with Aardman and a $109 million write-down. It grossed over $178 million worldwide against its $149 million budget.
Imagine that. Rise of the Guardians tells a story about Guardian Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and the Sandman, who enlist Jack Frost to stop the evil Pitch Black from engulfing the world in darkness in a fight of dreams. Unfortunately, it was the biggest box office flop of all time, and it was the last DreamWorks animation film to be distributed by Paramount Pictures. But still, Rise of the Guardians really is awesome.
One of my favorite animated movies of 2016 next to Finding Dory, and Kung Fu Panda 3. The film follows two trolls who go on a quest to save their village from destruction by the Bergens, creatures who eat trolls to be happy. It received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song for one of my favorite song, Can't Stop the Feeling.
Nah, Over the Hedge is very good movie. The film's plot follows a raccoon named RJ who must reclaim food for a bear, ultimately manipulating a group of animals that had recently awakened from hibernation in order to speed up the process.
And again, the Croods, A New Age was very good alongside with the Croods. The film follows the Croods, Guy and their pets Belt, Chunky and Douglas, as they discover an idyllic, walled-in paradise that meets all of its needs. Unfortunately, they must also learn to live with the Bettermans, a family with a couple of steps above the Croods on the evolutionary ladder. It was a decent enough follow-up and I like the cast. Too bad Cloris Leachman will be missed.
Alrighty ladies and gentlemen, Madagascar 3 will be my favorite Madagascar movie, unlike Madagascar and alongside with Madagascar, Escape to Africa. In the film, the main characters, a party of animals from the Central Park Zoo whose adventures have already taken them to Madagascar and Africa, attempt to return to New York City, and find themselves traveling across Europe with a circus while being chased by a relentless French animal control officer. Oh yeah, and Marty's circus dance be like Afro Cirrus.
As Egyptians like the Prince of Egypt, which was way masterpiece than ever before. It is an adaptation of the Book of Exodus and follows the life of Moses from being a prince of Egypt to a prophet of the Lord, chosen by God to carry out his ultimate destiny of leading the Jews out of Egypt. I particularly liked the visuals, songs, and voice acting. Too bad the Prince of Egypt was banned in the Maldives, Malaysia and Egypt, all state Islam countries, on the grounds that Islamic prophets, who include Moses, are not to be visually depicted.
I never knew I have watched Kung Fu Panda 2, and it was really funny. In the film, Pat and his allies, Tigress, Monkey, Viper, Crane, and Mantis, travel to Gangmen City to stop the evil peacock Lord Shen from conquering China, while also rediscovering Poe's forgotten past. His forgotten past was so emotional, I tell you. Anyways, it offers enough action, comedy, and visual sparkle to compensate for its familiar plot, and I always love the performances of Jack Black and Gary Oldman.
Well, I always loved the movie Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and it was wonderful that I always feature in it. In the film, Mr. Peabody, Bill, and Sherman, Charles, use the Wayback to embark on the time traveler adventures. When Sherman accidentally rips a hole by taking the Wayback without permission to impress me, they must find ourselves to repair history and save the future. I always love the humor, animation, soundtrack, voice acting, and action sequences.
Hey, Art, we forgot to mention that Penny was being mean to you at the beginning by bullying you, and call you a dog?
Yup, at the school, and now we're getting into a fight and then bite Penny in self-defense. Peabody is called into the office of Principal Purdy. Also in attendance is Ms. Grunion, a Child Protective Services agent who suspects Peabody of being an unfit parent and plans to visit their home to investigate.
Now Sherman, you know that biting someone is not an right thing to do, and on top of that, it was an box office flop.
Yup,
Yes.
I just heard that.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Thanks guys.
You're welcome.
But who cares? Mr. Peabody and Sherman is one of the best DreamWorks movies of 2014 alongside How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Penguins of Madagascar. I have watched Abominable, and it looks very cool. The film follows a teenage girl named Yi, who encounters a young Yeti on the roof of her apartment building in Shanghai, names him Everest and embarks on an epic quest to reunite the magical creature with his family at the highest point on Earth along with her mischievous friends Jin and Ping. But the trio of friends will have to stay one step ahead of Burnish, a wealthy man intent on capturing a Yeti, and zoologist Dr. Zara to help Everest get home.
Shockingly, Stephen, the film has been banned in several countries involved in territorial disputes with China over the South China Sea, namely, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Well, I can tell you, strange things do happen.
Well, probably it's because Abominable has garnered controversy for a scene involving a map of the region with the 9th line, a contested demarcation line used by China to lay claim over a portion of the South China Sea.
Ooh. Puss in Boots was very funny, and me, Captain Cute, and TJ the Pirate Teddy Bear laughed. The film follows the origin story of Puss in Boots, Banderas, on his adventurous years before the events of Shrek 2. Accompanied by his friends, Humpty Dumpty, Galifianakis, and Kitty Softpaws, Hayek, Puss is pitted against Jack and Jill, Thornton and Sedaris, two murderous outlaws, for ownership of 3 legendary magical beans that lead to a great fortune of golden eggs from the Great Terror, a gigantic goose.
Well, I have to say Kung Fu Panda 3 was also very funny as well. In the film, is reunited with his birth father and discovers the existence of a secret panda village, but must soon learn to master Chi and prepare the pandas to fight against Kai, a spirit warrior intent on destroying Oogway's legacy. Well, I feel sad that Nancy Bernstein, who served as head of production at Dreamworks Animation, died on September 18, 2015 at the age of 55. That's always I feel. But anyways, I love the visuals and narrative.
Really, Deadpool.
I can handle it. In the film, 2 4th graders, George Beard and Harold Hutchins accidentally hypnotize their mean principal, Mr. Krupp, into thinking he is the titular Captain Underpants, a superhero who fights crime while wearing only underwear and a cape, thinking he has superpowers. What? Mr. Krupp wears only underwear and a cape? George Beard, Harold Hutchins, how did you not know this? Anyways, I always love the animation, humor, faithfulness and references to its source material, and voice acting, particularly from Helms, despite lowest budget for a Dreamworks animation feature film until Spirit Untamed was released in 2021 at a budget of $30 million. Me, Bubbles, Buttercup, Bliss, and Jean are always laughed.
Speaking of animation, I also watched Kung Fu Panda, and it was very funny, and it was one of my favorite Dreamworks movies of 2008. The film, set in a version of ancient China populated by anthropomorphic animals, centers on a bumbling panda named Pu Black, a kung fu enthusiast. When a notorious snow leopard named Tai Lung McShane is foretold to escape at Chorgom prison, Pu is unwittingly named the Dragon Warrior, a prophesied hero worthy of reading a scroll said to grant its reader limitless power.
Yeah, well, look what Tai Lung did to me. Boy, I can tell you, Tai Lung was a huge disgrace villain I'd ever deal with.
I always love its animation, mature themes, humor, faithfulness to the Chinese environment and tradition, score, action sequences and writing. And also, my favorite character was Pu. He was very funny in my opinion.
I have watched The Bad Guys at the theaters today, and guess what? It did make me, Clover, and TJ the Pirate Teddy Bear laugh, along with Puss in Boots movies. Anyways, it tells the story of a criminal group of anthropomorphic animals who, upon being caught, pretend to attempt to reform themselves as model citizens, only for their leader to find himself genuinely drawn to changing his ways for good as a new villain has his own plans. So with being said, I super love its animation, writing, humor, and voice acting. Shrek?
Yup, it is.
Oh my teddy bears! I always loved this first movie so much when I was little. Anyways, in the film, an embittered ogre named Shrek Myers finds his home in the swamp overrun by fairy tale creatures banished by the obsessive ruler Lord Farquaad, Lithgow. With the help of Donkey, Murphy, Shrek makes a pact with Farquaad to rescue Princess Fiona, Diaz, in exchange for regaining control of his swamp. I always love its animation, voice performances, soundtrack, writing and humor, which they noted catered to both adults and children. Didn't I forgot to mention there's a sequel, Shrek 2, one of my favorite movies of 2004? Shrek 2 takes place following the events of the first film, with Shrek and Donkey meeting Fiona's parents as her zealous fairy godmother, who wants Fiona to marry her son Prince Charming, plots to destroy Shrek and Fiona's marriage. Shrek and Donkey team up with a swashbuckling cat named Puss in Boots to foil her plans.
How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World was one of my favorite animated movies since 2019, so that's why I have picked the film. The film follows Hiccup as he seeks a dragon utopia known as the Hidden World while coming to terms with toothless new bond with a female fury, as they deal with the threat of a ruthless dragon hunter named Grimmel the Grizzly. I love its animation, voice acting, musical score, and emotional weight of the conclusion. Didn't I forgot to mention I also watched How to Train Your Dragon 2? Set 5 years after the events of the first film, the film follows Hiccup and his friends as young adults as they encounter Vaka, Hiccup's long-lost mother, and Drago Bloodfist, a madman who wants to conquer the world. I also love its animation, voice acting, musical score, action sequences, emotional depth, and darker, more serious tone compared to its predecessor.
Where am I again? Sorry. Oh yeah, and it really is 92% good. Some of the main characters share facial similarities with the actors who voice them. The film involves an anxious worker and Zed, Alan, who falls in love with Princess Barla, Stone. When the treacherous scheming of the arrogant officer General Mandible, Hackman, threaten to wipe out the entire worker population, Zed must save the ant colony from the flooded tunnel and strives to make social inroads. I like the voice cast, animation, humor, and its appeal towards adults.
Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit is a parody of classic monster movies and Hammer horror films and also serves as part of the Wallace and Gromit series, created by Nick Park, Nice Movie by Dreamworks and Aardman. The film centers on good-natured yet eccentric cheese-loving inventor Wallace and his intelligent quiet dog, Gromit, in their latest venture as pest control agents. They come to the rescue of their town plagued by rabbits before the annual giant vegetable competition. However, the duo soon find themselves against a giant rabbit consuming the town's crops.
Oh boy! I always wanted to see this movie in cinemas. Set after Shrek Forever After, 2010, the film follows Puss in Boots as he journeys to find the mystical last wish for the wishing star by teaming up with Kitty and Perito, Gian, to restore the first 8 of his 9 lives, by wishing on the mystical last wishing star. They must race against Goldilocks and her 3 bears crime family, Pew, Winstone, Coleman, and Kale, and Big Jack Horner, Mulaney, who all desire the star. Puss must also avoid a mysterious hooded wolf, Mora, who plots to kill him. I really love its animation, themes, voice acting, and humor, in which this made me laugh, and it was one of number 3's favorite DreamWorks Animations SKG films of all time.
Being on to the number 2, Chicken Run centers on a group of British anthropomorphic chickens who see an American rooster named Rocky Roads as their only hope to escape the farm when their owners want to turn them into meat pies. I always like that movie, and I'm looking at you, chicken wing owners.
Mr. Carrison, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think it's time for us to run, calling it in surrender.
Behold, one of my favorite DreamWorks movie of all time, was How to Train Your Dragon. The story takes place in Berk, a mythical Viking village. Hiccup, an undersized teen wishing to become a dragon slayer like the other Vikings, enters a rare night fury dragon but is unable to bring himself to kill it. He instead helps and befriends the dragon, and quickly discovers that things are not exactly as they seem in the Viking-dragon conflict. I really its animation, voice acting, writing, musical score, and 3D sequences.
Thank you
for being with us today.
That's us done for today.
Alright, Now it's time for all of us to give some lunch break, and back to work.
Got it.
I'll be at the motorbike test.
And I'll be playing with my Winnie the Pooh and Tigger plush toys. I always love it.
Does anyone else see the switch? Oh, there it is.